Welcome to another episode of the Virginia Investor Podcast. Today's guest is Forrest McGhee. He is a master electrician for over 20 years, a Class A contractor for 19 years, roots in Northern Virginia with government contracts, and he's done a lot of real estate investing. He hosts the local meetup, and I'm excited to learn more about your background, upbringing, your journey through real estate. Forrest, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Steven. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Let's get started with where you were born and your upbringing. So what was childhood like for you? Where did you grow up?
So Richmond's my home. I was born here at Richmond Memorial Hospital.
Okay.
And 1976. I just turned 50 last month.
Awesome.
So I grew up here, but parents don't always get along, and my parents separated, and I ended up going to Northern Virginia and spending a good part of my childhood up there. And then came to live with my dad and did high school here at Godwin for a few years. Okay. And made some choices that led to some changes. And I ended up starting a new school, my senior high school in Manassas.
Interesting.
And I went to Stonewall Jackson, and that's where I graduated. And at the time, I was very angry about it. Mm-hmm. And my mom and dad, my stepdad, said, you'll get over it, and it'll turn out to be a good thing. And through the relationships that I made that 1 year of high school led me to me traveling all over the world, doing government contracting, and then meeting my wife in Malaysia, all through that unfortunate event that I thought it was at the time, but it really led me to where I am today.
That's interesting. All right, so I want to unpack some things. So what age were you roughly when your parents got separated?
I was 5. My sister was 2.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. My parents separated, but it was in my high school years, right? Mm-hmm. So there wasn't much memory that you have of them together. And then you, I assume, went up to Northern Virginia with your mom?
I transferred in the 3rd grade up there. So my mom was working for the ATF.
Okay.
And as a secretary admin person, and she got an opportunity up in Falls Church. So we ended up moving into the city of Falls Church and ended up going to school there.
When you were going to school there, were you focused on sports, academics, social life? Like what?
Sports, is what everybody tells you to do. Young boy, you do football or something. And so we did that. And then I ended up getting into the marching band down here at Godwin. And enjoyed it. I had a good time with it.
Would you play?
So in the concert band, I played clarinet, but I quickly moved to bass clarinet because I had too much wind.
Nice.
And for marching, they don't do bass clarinet, so I did tenor saxophone for marching band.
That's awesome.
And great. I didn't, I loved doing the marching band stuff, right? But I didn't enjoy playing music. I wasn't the guy always at home practicing all night long.
Right.
But I did football up until like my freshman year, and then I switched to marching band because I wasn't great at football. And
so you were up in Northern Virginia for a bit doing that, and then you came back down for high school, down to Richmond for high school.
Sophomore year, I came back down to Godwin to live with my dad to try that out, and I tried it.
It wasn't what you expected, or
me and my dad really love each other, right? He passed in 2021, but we really loved each other. We just had a really hard time showing it,
right?
Yeah. So we just didn't get each other very well.
And then were you still with your father when an incident happened your senior year of high school?
Yeah, my junior year, we finished the year out, and I was doing aviation through Henrico County. They had an aviation program back in the 90s where they would you could either be a mechanic or you could be a pilot, and you had to apply for it, and you went to VOTEC out at Highland Springs. So I got accepted, and I started my junior year going out there to do that. And I excelled. I I was the first person to solo in my whole class. Everything was great. I loved the flying part, but I just was pretty messed up in the head, and I wasn't studying the way I should and doing the book work. Aviation's funny, it's like you can be great at flying, but if you can't handle the knowledge, they're not going to let you through.
Right.
So my dad and I just weren't doing well. Just together, we just weren't doing well. So I made a decision to not be there anymore. And I had this grand plan. This is pretty funny. So we had neighbors in the same neighborhood. That was my babysitter when I was young before we moved to Northern Virginia. And her name was Mary Ann. And she's long since passed, but she was a special lady. And she's in the neighborhood, and I was going to make my mailing address there, and I was going to live with my grandmother off of Huguenot. Like I said, I'm a Richmond kid, and I was going to live with my grandma. I was going to have my mailing address there so I could stay in the aviation program and finish, my senior year in Godwin. When my stepfather and my mother found out about that plan, they quickly changed it.
Yeah.
And said, no, you're coming up to Northern Virginia, which was Haymarket is where we lived, and we had a 45-minute car ride, hour and a half bus ride to school into Manassas. The whole place has changed now, but yeah, that was it. I had my plan, and God had different plans.
Right.
Yeah.
With the aviation thing, where did your love of aviation start?
Man, I don't know. I just always had it.
Yeah.
I just always had it.
Just as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking up, man.
Yeah.
Just always looking up.
I mean, it is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool, but it's awesome that you made the moves to get involved that young. I had no idea. I knew you were involved in the aviation world, but didn't know it started at a high school age.
Yeah, my first 15 hours of flying was before I was 18.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I loved motorcycles, and I was like the kid that had a motorcycle before. I know, I think back in the day, a lot of people had motorcycles when they were younger, but in my school, no one had a motorcycle, like an actual street, they had dirt bikes and stuff like that. But I was the kid that got rid of my car in my junior year of high school and just rode a motorcycle only, everywhere I needed to go. But
that's really funny, actually. Let me do that because we're very alike in that manner. Because I did motorcycles, when I left my dad's house, I had a Kawasaki LTD 550, and that was my plan, was to use that to go back and forth the whole year. And it was so funny. My stepfather brought his conversion van back then. He had a 1980 Chevy conversion van. Loaded that damn motorcycle up in the back of it and hauled my butt up to Northern Virginia. It was so funny.
At least he brought the bike with
But
him.
that was my plan, right?
Yeah.
I was going to do that, and then sold that and got a KX 250.
Nice.
And fell into some guys up there that is the country, so we could ride all over the place. We just throw a 2-stroke oil in a backpack, and we pull up to a gas station and fill up with gas and pour some oil in there and shake the tank and shake the bike around and get going.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great.
But we did the Harley thing for a while, my wife and I, and I really liked that. But one day I laid the bike down with her on it, and I said, I've been in bad motorcycle accidents before. I almost lost my leg once, and ended up in the hospital. They sewed my leg back together. But when I hurt my wife, everything changed.
Different.
It's different. So I was sold the bike. And
a life-changing event for me, it was wrecking my motorcycle and having traumatic brain injury and having a very small percentage of chance to live. And I came out of that. It was a very long recovery, but that changed how I viewed life. And unfortunately, it took something like that to kind of wake me up a little bit. But after that,
they're fun until they're not.
Yeah, I continued to ride a little bit, but that was by necessity. I was working in motorcycle shops and stuff like that. So I got back on the horse and was riding, and I built my bike back to sell it to help pay with medical bills. Didn't even make a dent in the medical bills, but I would still love to ride. But now I have kids, and there's no chance I'm riding. I think, yes, you can ride responsibly and everything, but you're worried about other people on the road and stuff. We know that, right? But now my passion is what I'm working on now is building out a garage so I can just work on them. That's it, because that's what I miss the most is building them and working on them. And then I kind of joke that I'll take it on one lap around my neighborhood and then sell it and get another one. I have no desire to ride more than that, just because of my kids and my family. Because I think you and me know what could happen in a snap of a finger, and your whole life can change, and the risk isn't worth the reward at this point on that. So you change up your high school your senior year, and you say that it opens up all these doors. What does that look like? How did that happen? Because I would imagine at that age, if you uprooted me, now at that time, my parents were going through some stuff, and it changed my whole, the way I acted, the way I performed in school. It changed me completely. My whole mindset was shot at that point. Performance was down. I didn't care about a lot of things. If I would have been dealing with all that, and I still had my friends. I still had the school, the area I'd grown up. If you would have uprooted me and then put me somewhere else, man, I would have been a bad kid. I would have been a really bad kid. How did you get dropped in this brand new environment with all this other adversity going on and somehow have all these opportunities come out of it?
I was blessed that I was dragged to church, whether I wanted to go or not. And so, I have a fairly good moral compass. I was not a good kid. But it never went too far to where I lost control. I got pretty close a couple times, but it's just one of those things, I always, if you're at a club or a party or something, you're never like 100% having a great time, right? You always know that it's probably not the place you should be,
right.
For the rest of your life. There's just always this part inside of you, your moral compass, just saying that you deserve more,
yep.
you owe yourself more, and I never let go of that part of me. And so even when bad things happen, I just know that it's not fatal,
yeah.
right? And so you can be disappointed and be upset and still wake up in the morning and go and perform, albeit I didn't perform well. I mean,
right.
I graduated by the skin of my teeth.
Yep.
When I started that school, George Mason. It was kind of funny. I took this Algebra 3 trig class, because I like math, and took this class, and I was loading up my schedule, and they started getting into this imaginary number stuff. And I went down to the guidance counselor. I said, "Do I need this class to graduate?" She goes, "No." I said, "They lost me in imaginary
right.
numbers." I said, "I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. What else can I do?"
Yeah.
She goes, "Well, you can be a guidance aide." I'm like, "Heck yeah."
Yeah.
So I took marketing, guidance aide, English, chemistry, or something like that, and history. That was it. I had like 5 classes, and they were block classes.
Right.
So I had work release. I worked at a Ford dealership, washing
nice.
new cars, prepping new cars for delivery. So I had work release at noon. So I did like 2 classes a day for that year.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. And one period was guidance aid. So for not knowing anybody, I had a pretty good senior year of,
right. yeah.
just not having too much drama and too much pressure on me. Never made the honor roll, but that's all right.
Yeah, you graduated.
I graduated the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I remember, I think I was not good at math. I think largely we got to like that stage, and I was like, I don't imaginary. What am I learning? Like, how is this going to apply? And I just stopped. Like, I'm like, I got so in my head at the time, I got so much other stuff going on. Why am I putting this in, like, anyway? So, and we're kind of similar again in that way where like, I wasn't a great kid, but I did have a very strong moral compass. Like I knew what I should be doing and what was the right thing, and like didn't stray too far from that path. For the most part, I've done a lot of dumb things, to be very clear. But yeah, I've always known, kind of kept sight of what the right thing was, and tried not to let myself go too far off the edge. But I remember I was about to walk across the stage, and I was graduating, and this is high school, and the math teacher, was like, I guess like her job was to stand there and make sure the kids walk across the stage a certain way or whatever. But she like whispered something, and she was just like, "I can't believe you're here," or something like that. Like, I forget exactly what she said, but it was something along those lines where like, "Man, you barely made it." And I was like, "Thanks."
Yeah.
And just the thing is before all that stuff happened with my family, I was honor roll constant my entire life, like advanced courses, honor roll, like just in really good programs. And then that happened, and everything just derailed, and almost didn't graduate high school. So were you looking at colleges at that point, or were you just kind of like, man, I'm not
I
doing
told
this?
My parents, don't waste. So I was going to try to go to Averett University and do the pilot program there. They have an aviation program there. And as a side note, my son actually did that. Started at Averett and graduated at Liberty with his aviation program. But I was going to do that, and I, had found a lot of dumb other things to do. And so I told my parents, I said, "Don't even waste your money. I'm not ready for college." And so I started with cabinet making apprentice, and then I moved to concrete for a little while, and then my driving record caught up to me, and I was put on just a regular finish crew with everybody else that eats burritos for lunch. And my dad said, "Are you ready to come be an electrician?" So at 19, I started my electrical career.
Is that what your dad did?
Yeah, he's an electrical contractor. I'm a 3rd-generation electrician.
Okay.
Yeah, and business owner.
Your dad owned a business, so you got to see like a taste of entrepreneurship, for better or worse. You got to see some entrepreneurship growing up, and kind of see what that was like as well.
I wouldn't call contracting entrepreneurship, but I would call it business owner.
Got it.
I got to see what it was like, if it is to be, it's up to me mindset,
right.
Every day. My summers were working, with one of his electricians, as you know, or maybe you don't, your weekends you alternate with your, other parent. And so, and then in the summer, a couple weeks out of the year, I'd go and, get on a truck with the guys and learn how to do things and be a little helper and stuff like that. And that's just my dad, for all that, all the difficulty, he taught me how to work. And just work, right? Just make it happen.
Right.
And that's what I do.
So electrician, which is a phenomenal gig, especially today. I mean, it's awesome. You can make a great living being an electrician. Were you doing residential, commercial?
Commercial, industrial.
Commercial, industrial. Okay. And then that eventually gets you into the government.
Contractor.
Right. Mm-hmm. What did that look like? Were you off doing your own thing at this point, or were you doing that for a company?
I was working for my father, and we were not happy together, and I was playing pool one evening with a friend of mine who had just got out of the Navy, and he said, "Hey, I found this awesome company. They're hiring electricians, licensed electricians." By that time, I was licensed at 23 or something like that, and maybe 24. But anyway. I was licensed. He said they're hiring licensed electricians to travel all around the world, work at these awesome places, and they're paying a lot of money, which was like more than double what I was making working for my father. I had some bennies, right? I had a car and stuff like that. But even though I wasn't happy, I was obligated, right? I wasn't going to leave my dad high and dry. I'm just not that person, and so. I, put this bar napkin phone number in my pocket, and one day me and my father had an especially bad morning, and went out. I used to smoke. I smoked for over 20 years, and went out to have a cigarette and pulled the number out of my wallet and gave it a call.
Interesting.
And went through the interview and security processes, and one morning I got a phone call that said, "Hey, when can you start? Oh, your paperwork came through."
Wow.
And I was like, and it was like in the middle, I'll never forget, it was in the middle of the lobby of my father's office. My father's here, our office manager's here. I've got people telling, Forrest, where do I go today? Because I was his operations manager. I was like, I'm going to have to call you back.
Yeah.
And turns out, I gave my dad my 1 month's notice, and started that. That was right before 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like August of 2001.
So government contracting electrician, are you going to like embassies or military bases, or like what sort of work are you doing in all of these different
State
countries?
Department stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah. Sometimes it's a warehouse, sometimes it's an embassy, sometimes it's a consulate.
Yeah, just anywhere they.
Just all State Department.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then did things change at 9/11?
Well, I got hired on at the beginning of the year. So I started the process right before it, and then that happened. And the whole purpose of the program, they quickly realized that the electronic technicians just don't do electrical work.
Right.
So they started hiring a bunch of electricians like me to go out and manage it and do all the electrical stuff, because that's what we would do, electrical stuff.
So when you're traveling the world, you meet your wife,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, when you're you said Malaysia?
Malaysia.
Yeah, so you're in Malaysia, you meet your wife. How long are you working for government contracting?
I did that about 4.5 years,
Okay.
almost 5 years. I was traveling about 90% of the year. We would come home. There was no Netflix, so we would come home, get new DVDs, new underwear, new shoes, and we would get our visas and head back out.
Yeah. So what did you do after that? Where'd you go?
I did more government stuff as an employee. I quit the traveling. I went to estimating and project management just from here, and I just had this. I just had this burning desire that I needed to, own a company. It was kind of like a dream kind of put into me, or a goal put into me by my father. But it was just something that I was, turning 30, and I was like, if you don't do this, you're just not going to do this.
Right.
So try. The worst thing that happens is you come back to work here or something.
Right.
And, I'm fully qualified to get a job anywhere in my industry. I just chose to try.
So you get your Class A license.
Yeah, I got my Class A license, and I married my master electrical with it, so I had the Class A electrical. Since then, I've put on my RBC, so I can, build houses, residential, up to quads.
Are you in Northern Virginia at this point, or are you back down to Richmond?
We were in Woodbridge.
Okay, got it. How'd you find real estate?
Back when I worked, as a traveling person, the people that didn't travel, it was like the 05 to 08 boom of real estate. And so, like I said, we were making, handsome paychecks. And so a lot of those people started flipping houses, and that was when all you needed to do was nothing and, make, a whole lot of money. And then a lot of those people got into buying pre-construction, at this price and selling them at an elevated price by the time the construction was done and all that. And they went from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and, blew up the market that way because everybody got greedy. But I saw it and I was like, that'd be cool to, flip a house.
Right.
And, fast forward to 2014, that's when I started doing it. But I did the contracting from 2007 to 2014.
So, but you're obviously an electrician, you're doing contracting now. So you saw what people were doing leading up to the financial crisis. Like, you're seeing how people were making money in real estate. And then what kind of kicked it off in 2014 to where you were like, I wanted to start taking action on this?
I don't know how it would be received, right? But I just didn't want a boss anymore.
Yeah.
As well as I do, owning this property management company, you have a lot of bosses.
Yeah.
Right. You have a lot of people saying, hey, do this, do this, do this. Why didn't you do this? Or
right.
When are you going to do this? I didn't want that anymore. Contracting is, do hustle, hustle, hustle. And then can I please have my check? Right. And I wanted to be a little bit more in control of who my boss was. And so I thought that, flipping houses would be a good way to do that. And in some ways I was right, but some other ways I wasn't. So
what were your resources at the time? Because, of course, you got some insight of what people were doing pre-financial crisis, but 2014 is a whole different world. Are you like, podcasts aren't big yet? I don't even know if they existed at that point, but like they're getting started sometime around that point. Are you watching YouTube? Are you reading books? Are you going to meetups? Like, do you have a network around you that invests? How are you getting into this?
I had absolutely nothing except for one friend that had done it before, and he didn't get burned. It was from that old company. And I said, hey, man, would you like to, flip a house with me? And he goes, yeah, I've got some money. Let's do it. So he took his retirement account and converted it into a checkbook LLC, type of retirement account. We, did everything wrong.
Yeah.
Everything.
But he had done it before.
He had done it, in the early mid 2000s, right?
Yeah.
But he was conservative and didn't get, caught up in the greedy mess. And
what were the mistakes of this one? Like, specifically walk us through, if
everything.
You don't mind. Yeah, just like purchase price estimation. Like, how did it go wrong? Because you guys aren't just going out there and making an offer and just trying to fix something.
Well, most people will say that you make money when you buy. Yeah. And I don't necessarily agree with that 100%. I mean, you have to buy it right, but you have to renovate it right. You have to have a good partnership. You got to do it with some velocity and momentum. And did none of those, right? So I did what a quick Google search would say to do. How to find your first deal is hook up with a realtor in the area that you want to do it and find a property that needs work, which we did those two things. But, we didn't know the numbers. So I think we bought that thing at like 80 or 82% of, what we sold it for. It was a huge house, right? It had a full basement. It was really dated. It was one of those inherited properties being sold off. Everything needed to be updated, so I thought, And so, and being an electrician, put recessed lights in here and dimmers and all these things that just chip away at your profit. And I didn't pay myself. I didn't have that in the agreement to pay myself, so I worked for 6 months with no money, using the contracting to supplement that. And so working nights and weekends on this one, and whatever day I didn't have a paying job. And then we got to the end, and we couldn't sell it. Because we priced it to try to make money instead of pricing it for market value. And it sat on the market, and my friend got impatient, so he did a lease option.
Interesting.
And did a lease option, and the optionee couldn't follow through. So we had to take it back about, a year and a half later. and I renovated that house again with no money. And by that time, I had already, worked with my dad and started figuring things out. I'd been to classes, took on a mentor, so I knew what I was doing. So this time I did it, smarter and with more tact and more deliberate actions and things that we did. But so we just painted a few things and, just fixed a few things. I was out there every other weekend mowing the damn grass, just doing all this stuff,
Yeah.
and finally, my partner sold it, and he was able to get out of it right, but I didn't. I didn't make a nickel on that.
And you worked 1.5 years on it.
I worked for 6 months on the first part, and then a month or two after that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what went wrong on the partnership? Like, did you guys not have outlined roles and responsibilities or like clear guidelines on how that split was going to happen? Because it sounds like you did a lot of the work and then you made no money, where your partner got out and probably still ultimately lost money, but got out okay. But was he doing work? He or she, were they doing work as well?
Yeah, he would come down on the weekends and help, and that was aggravating, right? Because all week or for the last month I've been doing things my way, and then I come down and have to take advice and direction from somebody else that is just there for a couple minutes in a Five Guys meal. It just got aggravating. So I would say that where it really went wrong is we thought that friendship would overcome business relationship.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's a pretty valuable lesson.
Yeah. I think I've seen partnerships that ruin friendships. I've also seen partnerships where the friendships do outride the business relationship, but it just has to be the right setup and the right situation.
I think I'm a sucker for a partnership, because, it was like my dad's dream and put into me to be a partner with my dad. And even as, when I was doing contracting in, 2007 to 2014, I was doing a lot of project management contracting and a lot of, sub stuff. And I would see these father and son things and, relationships at work and companies at work and partnerships at work. And I was like, I really envied that. I really wanted that. I don't know why. I just did. Maybe it's just because I didn't want to have to deal with everything. I kind of, all my businesses have been, everything funnels through my desk, So I kind of wanted somebody to take that load off, responsibility and be better at certain things than I am. Yeah, friendship doesn't work with me in partnerships, but I've always envied it. There's people that are great at it, but that's because, my opinion, those people bring two distinct, different qualities to the table, and their efforts make the company better.
Right.
For some reason, like me and my dad, we were definitely cut from the same cloth, man.
Right.
He'd tell me what to do, I'd tell him what to do, and then we get upset that the other person didn't do it.
Right.
Same thing with my first partnership. It was pretty much the same way.
Yeah. You definitely, having partners with different strengths goes a long way. And there's like some saying that, like, if two people in a partnership are the same, like, one of them is unnecessary, right? Mm-hmm. It's just pointless, right? It just causes way more contention. Are you still a fan of partnerships? Do you still prefer partnerships, or do you prefer to go it alone now?
I partner on every single opportunity that I have.
Got it.
Everything I do, I partner on, but I partner financially only, right? And we do deal partnering. So we don't do business partnering. So, like, I call a partner my, financial side, right? Whether it's a private lender or, hard money lender, whoever it is, they know their role.
Right.
Their role
and it's
is
very distinct.
Their role is to handle the money, and my role is to do what I said I'm going to do.
Right.
And so I partner on every deal, but it's clearly defined roles. It's what I need, and what I don't have at the time.
Right.
And that's how I do it. But yeah, I partner on everything. There's total value in it.
Right. And it's deal by deal, meaning
deal
like
by deal.
Yeah. So you're not like creating all these businesses and doing multiple deals and stuff. So deal by deal, which diversifies your risk in the partnership as well. Mm-hmm. When did you develop, so what always makes me curious is, like, after an experience like that, you've done a lot in real estate. After an experience like that, why did you continue down the investor path? I feel like a lot of people have been like, all right, this is not for me. I've tried and I failed and now I'm going to get out. Like you eventually like gained this investor mindset and continued going down this path. Was it out of necessity, or just something you really enjoyed and thought you'd do better next time?
I really didn't want to do contracting anymore as a contractor, having a client,
So back to the no boss thing. You're like,
yeah,
I'm going to figure this thing out.
And this is the path of least resistance. I got good at it, and said, just keep doing what you're good at.
Were you like starting to market and advertise and go to networking meetup groups and things like that to like really snap into this investor mode, or were you just kind of to yourself looking for your own deals?
I'm a direct-to-seller marketing person. I like to architect the deals. I don't think I've ever bought a wholesale deal. I mean, a wholesale, hundreds of them, but I've never bought one.
Yeah, because you've wholesaled. You've been a wholesaler for a long time, right? Yeah. And then I assume you obviously that's how you get your deals, and then you sell the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I straight up cherry pick, man.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, wholesaling's always been a part of my toolbox. It's always been a tool in my toolbox for sure. And as you learn and grow, I mean, wholesaling is a great entry point, right? You just got to know how to architect a deal on both sides. And if you can do that and you can build a team around it, it's a great revenue source. But as you grow in knowledge and partners, right, relationships, you figure out how to do the whole deal yourself. I just have certain rules with flipping that I just won't be burned by anymore. Right. And the age of the house is very important to me. The scope of work. I tell people, if that house needs more lumber than 1 2x4, it's getting wholesale. Yeah. Right. I mean, I'll carpet and paint something all day long. I even do kitchen cabinets, but if it's more than 1 2x4, it's getting wholesale.
That's great.
Yeah. So I have some rules, and anything before 1945 when they were doing balloon framing, I don't touch those houses and stuff like that. But as far as the marketing, direct to seller, I got in real early with SEO. So even though I'm not number 1, 2, or 3, I'm solid SEO in this whole area. I don't update it as much as I should to compete as well as I should, but I mean, we're pulling 2 to 3 deals a month off of SEO.
Awesome. Yeah. And you've been in the game for a while. So when did you start actually marketing? Was that 2014 area, or maybe 2015, 16, et cetera?
So when I started, my second partnership was with my dad, if you see this vicious cycle. Yeah. But my second partnership was with my dad. He saw an opportunity when the first one dissolved to, do this. And so we got into it in 2015 and really kind of learned the business. So if other people are successful, I can be successful, right? I just got to, there's no secrets. I just got to reverse engineer this. And so we got educated, took on a mentor, and figured out super great guy, Larry Goins out of South Carolina. Genuine, you could call him today and have a conversation with him, give you advice. And we took him on in 2015. Yeah.
Sweet.
What you're paying for is access to me for as long as you want it. Here's my cell phone. It's never going to change. I'm here as long as you want it. He said, every week he wants you to send a weekly update. And our class maybe had like 15 people in it, including my father. When my father and I dissolved again, a couple years gone by, and I emailed Larry my weekly update, and he called me up. He goes, "You know what, Forrest? You're the only guy in that class that emails me their weekly update. The only one." He said, "And that's why you're succeeding, is because you're doing it. None of these other guys." He said, "I'll never understand how people will pay me tens of thousands of dollars to learn something they won't use." Yeah. It's like, and he said, "I'll just never understand it." So with marketing, as far as marketing is concerned, I was scared to talk to sellers. All right. Yeah. I didn't have the belief system that somebody selling their house under market value is the best decision that they can make at that time. Right. I just didn't have that belief. And so I said, well, how can I do this, at a level where I don't need to talk to sellers? I can just do it with no emotion. And so I found the HUD Home Store, and that was one of Larry Goins' courses, and it was called HUD Homes Half Off, right? And I just got really good at bidding on HUD homes. All over the state, I had more time than money, and so I just had a really wide net. And I had a realtor out of Roanoke that was willing to help me out and place my bids every night. And we were placing, some months it was 30 bids a day, some months it was 100 bids a day. And, you know, if you've ever bid on the home store before, if you're rebidding, you just like hit enter, and then only the new ones you have to go through the pricing and stuff. And we were bidding 15 to 25 cents on the dollar, and we were landing deals, man. You know, like, I don't know if you ever heard of a place called Bluefield, but we bought a real house for $4,000 on the home store there and sold it for $20.
Wow.
And, you know, I thought I was tickled pink, man. I was like, this works, you know, this is awesome. We just did that. You know, my first 17 deals were HUD homes, and then somebody told HUD that they don't need to sell their houses for that cheap anymore, and so I had to pull my big boy pants up and learn how to talk to sellers and create that belief system in myself. And, you know, that's what makes somebody successful when you're doing, you know, direct to seller marketing is you got to believe that your solution is the best for them and sell them on it.
Were you holding those as rentals or flipping them or wholesaling the HUD homes?
Yeah, I'm allergic to tenants.
Yeah, so you're just wholesaling and flipping all day long.
Wholesaling, flipping, and lease options.
Lease options, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I tried wholesaling a very short period of time, and it was, I kind of got like a false sense of like ease at the beginning. So like I started marketing in the first week. I talked to an owner and then walked up to this guy's house. It was 5 minutes away, made him an offer. He accepted same day. I wholesaled it a day later, like assigned it a day later, and it closed like the next week. And I made like a $25,000 fee on that. And I was like, this is easy. Like, I'm good. And then I spent the $25,000 like looking for the next deal, right? And it just nothing came from the marketing. So I was like, all right, let me pull this, because I've always got my deals through relationships. The second I pulled the marketing, I got 2 more houses right after that. It was just very coincidental. But one thing I did when I was a wholesaler was, and you actually just put it perfectly better than I can articulate it, I did not have the belief system that it was always their best interest, and I don't want to do anything that isn't in someone else's best interest, right? And so I would show up to these people's houses, and unless they like needed to sell it that day, like cash or whatever, unless I was the best option, I would spend most of my time telling them like, no, you need to put this on the market. You're going to get $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 higher of an offer. It's not that bad. Like, you might have to do some showings, but this market is so hot, you know, et cetera. And then I would shake their hands and leave and just be like, well, I probably could have gotten that, but now I've sold them into like calling this agent and going and using them, right? And I did that time after time after time. And then I realized I just needed to work with wholesalers to get deals, or just other relationships in the community to get deals, because I'll talk myself out of the deal when it comes to like the cash offers, talking directly to a seller. So how were you able to make that transition?
I learned the sales process, right? I learned how to talk to them and understand their situation. And they're looking for a professional, right? They're looking for somebody to guide them through a process. In my opinion, everybody knows a realtor, right? I mean, that's, you know, everybody knows a realtor.
Yep.
And so they've probably already talked to one.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get the, you know, lead form, or you get the, you know, phone call that, hey, I would like a cash offer on your house, you're probably not the first person they've talked to, more than likely. And if you just point blank ask them that, you know, they'll probably tell you. A lot of people just want to hit the easy button, right? You know, and who are you to say that that's not the best thing for them? You're not their daddy,
right?
Right? You're there to provide a solution for them. And if they want to take it because of how you presented it to them, how you made them feel, do they trust you? Does it meet their needs, right? If they owe $100,000 and you give them a $50,000 offer, you're not meeting their needs. Your solution has to meet their needs.
Right.
And if you can, then, you know, oftentimes you'll be able to get that deal at the price that you need to get it at.
Right. I'm very good at sales, but for some reason, when it came to this, I think I'm very good at sales because I want to help people. And the second I found out that like my offer wouldn't be the best for them, I would like try to help them understand what is the best for them, instead of just saying like, what do you prefer? Like, I'm assuming they want the extra $20,000, but there has been times, as an example, that I've missed, that like someone's sick or I didn't miss, like we purchased this house, but like someone's sick in the house and they would rather take $20,000 less, sell it sooner and not list it and not have any foot traffic, not have to deal with anyone and just get it over with. Right. And so in those situations, I'm like, okay, as long as you know this is what could happen if you put it on market, then I feel better making this offer. Like there are some personalities that I think are better in some positions than others, which I see in this company as well, where like the right personality has to be in the right seat. And I found that like, unless the scenario was 100% what I'm doing is best, then I would try to teach them probably to a fault that like they could have a better outcome doing something else. And I was like, all right, I'm not the person to do this.
You know, it happens on both sides of the transaction in wholesaling. You know, I just started thinking about this when you were saying it. And I made the point a minute ago about how you're not their dad, right? Yeah. You know, you're not their financial advisor, right? You're not their life planner. I was at an appointment the other week, and it was this lady. She's in her 70s. Her and her fiance, who's getting out of jail in a few days, want to buy out his brother so that she can move into the house down the street with her fiance, and the brother won't let her live there until they give him $15,000 to buy his half of the house out. And that's this lady's motivation. And that's the price on the house.
Yeah.
It's a fire damaged house, but the price on the house is to meet her need there.
Right.
Right. And so it's not my job to tell her that she might get $20,000 out of it. It's not my job. It's my job to meet her need. Right. I mean, that's just my job.
Right.
Trevor with Carrot, he's the one that really drove this into me. Right. He said, you're leaving, you know, it's just not your job to, you know, be their parents. It's your job to make money if you have a wholesaling business.
Right.
And the flip side of that transaction and disposition is just as important. You know, that's where most wholesalers get it wrong, right? When you have a great dispo engine, it's not your job to tell somebody whether they're paying too much for the house or not.
Right.
Their vision, their use may not be what you think. You're thinking of a flipper mindset, or you're thinking of a, you know, whatever fancy rental strategy du jour, right? You know, they might be thinking completely different than you. They might have a 50-year mindset. They might have inherited some money and have to park it to not pay taxes or something, you know? You don't know what they're doing. So how are you to tell them what the price is, you know, or should be, or how much renovation? You know, I never tell people, you know, when they ask me, you know, what's your reno budget? Go pound sand, dude. You know, do your own homework. I used to do that because I was a contractor. I used to be like, oh, no, you need floors. Like, we don't need floors. I'm like, you need floors, right?
Yeah.
You know, getting my bias, my personal bias out of this business is very hard for me. But we've been able to do it. We've been able to take the business out of my personal, you know, taste and make it successful. But Dispo is definitely an art. Most people just get it so wrong. They're just like, you know, they put something out on Investor Lift, you know, $50,000, $100,000, whatever it is, and, you know, let the people come. But Dispo's changed. Dispo's more of an outbound sales process now than it's ever been. If you're not calling, texting, and talking to people on Dispo and selling it, you're never going to be successful in this next generation of wholesaling.
Well, and you have so many buyers, right? I mean, there's buyers everywhere. Why do you think people get it wrong on Dispo? I mean, obviously you're trying to make the highest amount of dollar you can, so you want to find the right people that are going to buy it. But what is the challenge on that end? I figured that would be the easiest part of it.
I was talking to somebody today about this. You know, we have this retail market space of, you know, days on market are up, you know, price reductions are up. You know, we have this squeeze down, all right, or this consolidation down in the retail space. And in the off-market space, we have people paying too much. So we have this consolidation in the market right now. And if you know anything about, you know, market consolidation, one day it's going to go this way or this way. This squeeze can't keep going, but for so long. And we're going to be a pretty interesting time if you think about it, because I don't hear people talking about it too much. But, I mean, you just have these unrealistic prices getting thrown out there, and you know, you have unprofessional wholesalers out there grabbing a contract, running around, you know, wherever it is, throwing this contract. I got a contract. I got a contractor. Who's going to buy it? The professional ones are, you know, going, okay, Steven, I got this property, you bought another one down the street a month ago. I see you flipped it. You did a good job. Do you need another one, or, is your pipeline full? Well, I need another one. Okay. Well, I saw you paid, $150 for this last one. It's about the same ARV, if I could, get this over to you and get you in it, it'd be something you're interested in. And, I talk about everything as a dating relationship. I know probably shouldn't, but it's okay. I can do what I want to do. In all my training with my company and everything, it's about the next date, right? It's about, you're not trying to drag it across the finish line right now. You're just trying to build that relationship,
right.
Build that trust, and get to the next date, the next appointment, to where finally there's going to be an open door and you just go in it.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. And you're thinking like a businessman, a long-term businessman, and that's why you've done hundreds of deals, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of the wholesaler just waves around the assignment and is like, hey, I got this, and then they offload it, great, and then they're like searching for their next one. And I should say that like everyone starts somewhere. That could be a lesson that they're going to learn if they listen to this podcast, how to do it more professionally. But you mentioned your team, and you've obviously scaled. So I guess you start seeing success in what you're doing because you're following through, you're putting in the work. Like your mentor, told you you're the only one to submit this paperwork every week or every 2 weeks. So you're obviously putting in the work, you're following through, you're getting some deals done. As you scale, you have to, I assume, build a team. What does that team look like? What did you need help? How did you scale up to the amount of deals that you were doing?
Again, Trevor with Carrot has been, he's been a wealth of wisdom, and I'm sure he didn't invent all this stuff, right? But he's the one that puts it out, and where I'm looking to where, I can see it makes sense, right? So they have this thing in the Carrot website called an energy audit, and you can just go and you can look at it anywhere, right? But it's very simple. You draw a line down the middle of the page, and you go, gives me energy and drains me energy. Mm-hmm. And all the things that drain your energy, you rate that from, the most draining to the least draining, and you start offloading those most draining ones first. Organization of leads and opportunities was way up on the list of crap I don't want to do. And then bookkeeping, top of the list of things I don't want to do. So bookkeeping was first, and then lead manager was second. And then, I like, making deals and talking to sellers, but, as being the owner of the company, it's hard to do. As you grow in this business, you built Peak, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is your brainchild, right? And so you did the same thing, right? You brought in people that are better than you at certain things, or maybe they're not as good as you at certain things, but there comes a point where you got to let the things that give you energy away to people that can do it, to free up your time to do new roles as being a business owner. And so there's this other guy that I've started bumping into through, Investor Fuel Mastermind. And so I'm a part of Investor Fuel Mastermind. And there's a guy that has spoken a couple times there named Trey Taylor. And he wrote a book. It's called CEO Does Three Things. And if you want to really mature in business, and if you want to really grow to something that's sellable, because you have a sellable company at this point, right? You've matured into a business that can operate without you, and that's success as a business owner. But in order to do that, a CEO needs to really focus on three things, what Trey says, and it's people, numbers, and culture. And one day I was on a Zoom call with Trey, and he had talked about how one of his friends had just exited a company for, however many millions of dollars, that it was only 3 years old. I'm like entering like my 10th year of, real estate, knocking on doors and, selling people on my solution to buy their house. And I said, Trey, how does somebody do that in 3 years? He goes, well, it's real simple, Forrest. He said, and this is exactly what happened, okay? He said, it's real simple, Forrest. He goes, when he started his company, he didn't say, what am I good at and what can I do? He said, I'm the CEO. A CEO does three things, and this is the company I'm building, and these are the roles I need to fill, and I'm going to fill them with other people and not me, and I'm going to focus on my job of setting the culture, finding the right people, and managing the numbers. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's other things that go in. You got to do fundraising and all this stuff, right? But in its core, that's what it is. Right. And so me being in construction, that's always been like my handicap of. I mean, it's really truly, it's been my handicap of I can fix it. Right. at the end of the day, if it doesn't get done, I'll swing down there and get it done.
Yeah, 100%.
That's been my mindset, and it has crippled my business for sure.
I definitely have the moments of like, I have a sense of pride when I can fix things. And largely it's not ego driven. I could care less about that. But it's like, I love helping the team. And if the team is struggling, I have a sense of pride that I can step in and help the team, like that I'm able to do that. I'm capable of doing it. It makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. At a certain point, you got to stop. Like, you have to put a team in place that doesn't need you to step in to solve things, on a regular basis, right? And so I've done, as this company, we have about 50 employees now, but like as this company has grown, I have to change as a leader and as a CEO into areas that like I haven't experienced yet. And if you're not able to make that mindset shift, that's the bottleneck for the company. That's how it comes out. So it's cool that you have the mentors and the network around you to kind of open your eyes to these things. When you're growing your team, are they largely like remote workers, like virtual assistants, or are you hiring in person, like sales or anything like that?
I've done in-person sales. I've done virtual sales, remote. I've tried every lotion and potion that you could possibly have. Right. My team right now is all remote. Cool. I have somebody that comes by the office and cleans up my messy paperwork and gets it organized, because that's definitely on my energy drainer side of the page. Right. I've just learned through experience, that everything we do is basically remote unless you're knocking on a door. Right? Mm-hmm. Everything else is a remote activity. It's a computer, telephone activity. If you can open your available marketplace of, talent that, is qualified to the whole world, it just makes sense to 100%. Find the highest and best people, wherever they happen to be, whatever cave they're in, as long as they got reliable internet and, they can speak well.
Yeah. That is, I think, a limiting mindset that a lot of people have, is like they can only hire people in their own market, and you've just excluded billions of people that could potentially do a really good job in your company, right? And so almost 50 employees we have on our team, a handful are remote team members that are in different countries that do incredible, phenomenal work for us. And some have been with us for 3 and 4 and almost 5 years. And they're super loyal. They show up every day, work just as hard as anyone that I could hire in person, are just as competent, just as knowledgeable, just like they have the same company culture and personality that we expect, that the same values and the same morals we have in the company. And it's unbelievable having them on our team. And it's something I'm really proud of. We had one of our remote team members, the closest one geographically, the easiest one to fly in. She's been on our team for 4 or 5 years. We flew her in, and I interviewed her on this podcast and talked about her remote team member. We call them RTM, so remote team member experience. And then talked about, struggles we had early on learning the process, and then how we kind of smoothed out that process and provided a really good experience for her, which allowed us to then multiply that team over and over and over again. So I'm a big fan. I mean, I think you can do an amazing amount of work with your team. It allows you to scale up faster and find great people. That's good. What about development? Do you have any desire to go into like new construction? There's a lot of people heading that direction now.
Yeah, I've always had the dream to do it. So we're framing our first new construction now.
Oh, really?
As a matter of fact.
That's awesome.
So the framers are on site right now.
You going to sell it?
Yeah, we're doing it for a sale.
Yeah.
I would like to build to rent eventually, but for now, I'm just learning the process. I was blessed to get a mentor. I've learned a long time ago that it's a lot easier to learn from other people's mistakes and a lot less expensive. Yeah. So I have a mentor helping me out, and he's really good. He's a successful, builder, and he's just retired, so he's helping me, and that's working out well. But yeah, I'm in the house building business now.
Are you marketing for land now? Like, have you gone down that game already? And
absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what have you had to learn differently about like marketing and looking and analyzing deals for land versus what already exists?
You pay as much as you can with land. You try to negotiate less. If they're willing to sell and it fits your budget, you just take it. Because not a lot of people in the land, they've held on to it for 20, 30 years. They're not really distressed enough for you to be sitting there beating them. You got to come in with your highest and best offer pretty much at the beginning if you're going to be buying land. because they're just not that distressed, unless you're going somewhere where I'm not going, maybe a tax auction or something like that. But most people that have inherited land is free and clear. They're just, paying the taxes on it every year, or just got tired of it. They're out of state or what have you.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't bought land specifically. I have one empty lot, but outside of that, like, haven't been marketing for land. But that's an interesting perspective that, like, they aren't going to be that motivated compared to someone else in a different scenario.
The types of homes that we're building would fit into the model of affordable housing. We're building, 1,230 square foot houses. We're building the same floor plan. We're just reversing them over.
Like
single
3-2s?
level, 3-2s, and open concept. Give people some bragging rights with vaulted ceilings and stuff like that. But it's affordable, and we're doing it in the tertiary markets that are affordable. And unfortunately, the current market that we're in, you can't build a new home and sell it affordably in the city of Richmond. It's not a first-time home buyer house anymore in that area. If they want the new home, they're having to go to more of the tertiary markets to get that new home feeling. And so that's the solution that we're providing for now. It serves a lot of purposes. One, I don't have to take on some huge mentors taking a huge position of the profit, right? I don't have to do an equity partner that's taking a huge position, part of the profit. It's quicker, right? It's less expensive overall. It's more, builder grade components. And I'm not spending months designing the thing, right? We're not going back to the architect or the design firm. Can you take this window and put it 3 feet over here and that and this and do this peak and that peak, right? It's a straight roof, and there's no skylights. It's a clean, safe, brand new home that people can afford.
Right.
And so we're just going to start dotting the map with them.
And then you're doing the building, like, that's where your RBC comes in?
We have the company that owns the property. We have the company that contracts the property, which are separate. And then we sell it. And then, the only 2 trades that I need to permit for outside of my company is the mechanical and plumbing.
Have there been any, I guess, also, like, you don't have as many surprises when it comes to cost because more or less exactly what to expect, I guess, unless anything weird is with the land. Have you run into any surprises when it comes to, like, new construction that you didn't expect?
The timeline is longer than I wanted it to be. I mean, now that we're, in the framing phase of our, first construction project, new build, it's moving a lot faster. But the beginning was a big learning curve for me. I had to get a zoning variance, which took a month and a half. I had, this problem, that problem. I had to get a survey and a site plan, all these things. I just had to learn everything.
Right.
So that learning curve just took a little while, but all the front end work is done. Now it's more straightforward things that I already know.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think the front end work is what scares most people. I think a lot of people can figure out some of the build process, or at least have the mentors to do it, but the front end work is kind of like the unknown. Mm-hmm. You have always, for as long as I've known of you, you've always been deep into networking. You've always hosted beat up groups, things like that. What does networking mean to you now that you've been, grown large as an investor? How important is your network?
My network is where my deals are made successful. I been running a group, for about over 4 years, and I rebranded, a couple years ago, and I'm rebranding again now, and we're now the Build Real Estate Community. It's kind of a big deal for me because something that happened to me a while ago that we haven't discussed yet, and it just came to my head. But we have these goals and these dreams, that are put in us, by, I believe, by God. He doesn't give you anything that he doesn't want you to achieve, right? I really don't have very much desire to go mine diamonds, even though it's probably profitable. I just have no desire to do it, right? But I have a desire to lead. I have a desire to mentor. I have a desire to help people be better. And, I'm married to this real estate industry. So, what better place for me to, help people be better? So how I got into real estate networking was I'd always gone to groups. And, when I was at Investor Fuel several years ago, I've been in Investor Fuel for 7 years. It's a mastermind group out of Dallas, Texas. It's a great mastermind group. I wouldn't have done it for 7 years if it wasn't. I would have quit a long time ago. But there's one I went to for one time and quit, right? So, so I've been to, I know what good and bad is. Right. And Investor Fuel is great. So if anybody wants to have a conversation about that, let me know, because they're a great community of people. Somebody was saying that, if you really want to be a leader in your community, you got to run a group. Being a leader in your community isn't being the smartest person, it's being a facilitator. Right? And a lot of people don't understand that. You don't have to be the smartest person. You just have to have smart people in the room, and you have to have the ability to pull that out of other people. Mm-hmm. And so I think I'm pretty good at that. People tell me I'm good at it. People tell me that, they like, coming to the group because it's a conversation, right? I've been to many networking groups where it's like, hey, look at this smart person at the front of the stage, right? Whether it's a guest or whether it's the host, it's, hey, look at this smart person, right? I'm not the smartest person in the room. I know it. Right? I know it because, there's people out there doing better than me, bigger than me, longer than me. And, I have a particular skill set and a particular knowledge base, and these people have, their particular knowledge base. And, I want to unpack it, and I want, everybody to learn from it. And I had a recent example of something that gives me energy with networking. Is I want to be a facilitator, right? That's the whole part of, build real estate community, is to build your network, build your professionalism, build your knowledge, whatever it is in this group that you need to build your, portfolio. I want to be a gateway to you getting what you want out of this industry, because it's fed me for, over 10 years, almost 11 years now, this industry has, and it can do it to, the people listening to this podcast right now. But a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, this random guy shows up for the first time to our group. And he's just sitting there, and I like to go around the room when it's small enough. I don't do it every time. I gauge the room. If I can get it done in 20 minutes or so, I'll let everybody go around the room and introduce themselves. And what did they come here for, right? Because everybody came here for something. Some people just come for the damn Chick-fil-A, right? And as Lindy Pond puts it, all the sauces. I got all the sauces. At the end of it, after we're done with the main part of the event, the presentation, or I like to do the panels. I like panels a lot, and I like this podcast environment a lot. So I won't just have somebody up there presenting, showing everybody how smart they are. I'll be doing the same thing like you're doing, and picking questions and fast forwarding and backing up and unpacking, and I think that a lot of people like that. And it's also anybody can ask a question at any time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And this guy came up. Afterwards, he was kind of wandering around, and he didn't really have like any glue to anybody. I figured he was relatively new to things, and so I went up to him and said, "I'm Forrest." He was, "Hey, I'm, who I am." I said, "Tell me about your real estate journey. What are you here for, and where are you at, and your journey?" And he goes, "Well, I'm really glad you asked." And he said, "I'm kind of new to things, and I'm just kind of getting my feet wet, just trying to learn everything I can learn." I said, "Well, that's great. If I can help you in any way, just let me know. But you got to stop learning at some point and start applying it."
Right.
And so if I can help you out, just let me know. The next day, I got a phone call from this guy. And he said, "Forrest," he said, "I want to tell you something. I've been going to these networking groups for about a year." He said, the big ones, the little ones. He said, "And you're the only person that came up to me and asked me about my journey." He said, "That meant a lot to me, and I just wanted to tell you that I appreciated it." And I said, "Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that." And I hung up the phone. I was like, "Forrest, that's why you do this. Right? That's why you do it. It's because somebody's paying attention and somebody's getting something from it." Right. And, a lot of people gave me stuff, right? I mean, a lot of people gave me knowledge that, they could have charged for. And if I can do it one day a month, then that's what I'm going to do. So I'm taking a month off between, my old brand and this one. And I'm just going to build it, because something that I learned a long time ago, that was put on my heart a long time ago, is when I was struggling through the partnership stuff and all this stuff, and I was asking, am I good enough to do it on my own? Praying about it, and God gave me this small voice that said, I put the vision in you, not in other people. So, if you have this desire, then I've given you everything you need to make it happen. So I've never really forgotten that. And, as I reposition into a new brand that's all mine, I just keep that mindset and that small voice just, telling me that, it's my goal, it's my vision. It's not dependent on other people propping me up, pushing me forward, sharing their brand or what have you.
Yeah. Where is it located, at the airport?
Yeah, we operate out of my office at the Hanover Airport. We're blessed to have a pretty unique space. We've been in there about four years maybe. We've been leasing that place, and the owner's a super great guy. And he allows us to, use that space once a month to host our events. And it's right on the airport. It's right on the airfield. We have to stop talking when the jets are taking off. I mean, it's for an aviation dude like me, it's as cool as cool.
It's like in a legit hangar, isn't it?
Yeah, we're in a legit hangar.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. Are you still flying?
Yeah, I fly.
Yeah.
Fly often. I have a friend of mine in the real estate community here. His name's Nathan, and we fly together. He has an airplane. I have an airplane. We fly oftentimes together, and I just enjoy it. It's a total hobby thing for me, but it gives me energy. It gives me a reason to want to be better. And the thing about being a pilot is it's a lifestyle thing, right? I mean, you're always learning. It's not something that you can just do and do well and forget about, knowledge and education. Every couple of years, you got to take a proficiency test. You're always flying, and you're testing your skills while you're flying. You're testing your, emergency, actions and stuff like that when you're flying. Every 2 years, we have to get a physical. At my age, we have to get a physical. So, promotes, a more healthy lifestyle. I'm not the most healthy person in the world, but my doctor says I'm better than a lot of people. It just keeps you being good, right? I mean, you can't mess up with, any major, traffic infractions have to be reported. So it just keeps you wanting to be a better person. And
I would assume you can't get too complacent as a pilot.
We tell people all the time that the easy part's flying, right? The hard part is navigating and communicating and being situationally aware of that airplane that you see on your screen, but you don't see right there, but you know it's right there because it's right on your screen, and you're just sitting there stretching and looking and stretching and looking, and you can't find it.
Yeah. So I envision, if you're flying, like you're going to another state for like barbecue lunch or something. Like where are you flying to? Are you just taking off and doing some circles, or are you going somewhere cool?
We create missions. It's kind of funny because what happens is that's what a lot of people do, right? They when I started flying again in 2018, I was doing a contract job because I've always been I'm still a contractor, and so sometimes I have this problem of not being able to say no. And so I had taken this contract for a state data center, and one of the guys there, he was a private pilot, and this was like 2016, 2017, something like that. And he's like, I'm going flying this weekend to Nag's Head. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah, me and the family, I have 2 young kids and my wife, and we go to rent an airplane at Hanover, and we'll fly down to Nag's Head for the day, let the kids play on the beach, and when they get tired, we take them, we put them in the airplane, and we're home for dinner. I was like, that's what I need in my life, right? And I need to be able to go do that kind of stuff. So I don't just do real estate in Richmond. I have, for some reason, for better or worse, I focus on Martinsville area, and I've got several properties there. I even have MLS access there as a realtor. So I'm actually tomorrow. I'm flying out about noon down to Martinsville to go look at a listing that I'm getting repainted right now, and I'll leave at noon. It's an hour and 15-minute flight. All these general aviation airports, I would say that general aviation is like the last frontier of decent American values that there is. They have courtesy cars. All you got to do is just go there and say, hey, can I borrow your courtesy car for about an hour or so? They're like, yeah, no problem. Wow. You take it, you go do what you need to do. you fill the gas tank up, you bring it back, you drop it off, and you get your airplane and you fly home.
Wow.
And it's like the good old boy network that just hasn't died yet. I mean, everywhere else in this world, who would give you their car, right?
Yeah.
But they have your airplane sitting on the tarmac, so I guess it's a fair trade.
Yeah.
But do things like that. One time, Nathan and I, we flew to Home Depot in South Boston to get a keyless, one of those push button locks, because it was in stock there and it wasn't in stock in Richmond. It's just awesome. Random stuff like that. On Friday last week, there was an airplane show in Manassas. Me and Nathan flew up there, had lunch, and sat in all the new airplanes, and got all of our new dreams and goals aligned with what pretty airplane we're going to buy, and then flew home in the afternoon. And you invent things to do. Yeah.
You might be putting another some thoughts in my head right now, because I'm like, we have a house in the Outer Banks, and I'm like, man, the 3-hour drive and packing up everything. If we could go down for a day trip, that'd be incredible. You also are a part of the Virginia Real Estate Alliance, and you're the vice president, and you're representing 15,000 members statewide. What is that alliance? I know what it does, but help our audience understand what that alliance does and maybe what your role is.
So the Virginia Real Estate Investor Alliance was founded by a gentleman named Fred Krause, and he had a vision to promote fair housing provider practices through Virginia. It never appears this way on the surface, but sometimes these little innocent laws that get enacted and policies that get enacted at a local level have unintended impact. It's happening with more and more frequency in Virginia, to where policy is becoming something that is starting to cost people money, and it's unintended. It's in a fairness mindset, or it's an affordability mindset, but we've been proven in every industry imaginable that when cost increases for the provider, it's always passed down to the consumer or the customer. And when you're a landlord, your customer is your tenant, and it's as simple as that. And you have a right and a duty to your customer to provide them with a quality product. And as your costs increase, the cost of being a consumer of that product is going to increase. It's just the way the world works. And so when you have these policies that are good on surface, but they have these consequences that ultimately affect the people they're trying to help, we were established, and we're here to point that out to the policymakers and provide some correction that we see would be more advantageous to the consumer. Right.
That's good. I mean, we need that. There has to be some sort of checks and balances, and a lot of the people that are making the laws don't necessarily understand real estate and rentals and different activities in that sector. And it's clear by some of these laws that get passed, where you're like, well, don't they understand? It is very clearly going to impact the consumer or anyone else, some other segment, in an extremely negative way. How do they not see it? And it's this group, the Virginia Real Estate Alliance, sort of speaks up, in my opinion, speaks up and kind of brings awareness to that and says, hey, heads up, this is a possibility, this is a potential, we need to be aware of that. What would you say to someone who wants to get started in real estate investing for the first time? What's the first step they should do?
They should think about it very hard. A lot of people get into real estate investing because they think it's easy. They think that it's quick money, and it's really been glamorized, through all the TV shows. I would really say that you should decide really what it is that you want to do in real estate. If it's a realtor, great, right? If it's a flipper, great. If it's a wholesaler, great. But don't try to do everything. It's just too much learning to do everything right now. You can always layer and stack later, but pick one thing that you're going to be good at, because most people starting in real estate are going to be financially limited. They're going to have more time than money, and there's only so much time in the day. And then another thing is most people that are starting into real estate, this is not their first career. So they've already got a life that has certain liabilities and limitations associated with it. And so if you're trying to be everything, if you're trying to find the deal and flip the deal at the same time, sourcing the deal and flipping the deal at the same time, because that's what you see so-and-so doing down the street, I would say just pick one, right? And if you're going to pick one, if you have a solid, management background, you might want to pick flipping, right? I would say that me having a construction, my brother-in-law, he came to me one time and he said, Forrest, I'd love to get into real estate investing, but I don't have the construction experience you have. I said, Jerome, you would be so much better at this than me. He goes, why is that? I said, because you don't know how to fix it. You got to hire it out. And so you're going to think correctly sooner how to treat it like a business. I treated it like I can fix this problem. And it has cost me years out of my real estate career and my goal of, having a true sellable business, because I spent all that time fixing problems instead of finding a process to have it fixed, as soon as it arises. And so you just got to pick one. Yeah. And there's no shame in being a great wholesaler. There's no shame in being a great flipper. I mean, you've interviewed, and we all know people that don't source any deals other than wholesalers or referrals. And they're killing it. They're the biggest flippers in the game here, right? So just pick one. You can be great at it. You just got to stay in your lane and have the emotional discipline to stay in your lane.
Right. Yeah. That's great advice. That focus will go a long way. And there are all kinds of shiny objects, especially to the new investor, because everyone's trying to pull you over to this new shiny object, right? And so that focus and that, I think you said it, like, why are you even doing this? And then that should lead you to what do you want to do in this? And then stay in that lane, at least until you have that figured out and a good process in place. That's awesome. That's great advice. Where can people find you?
It's not hard to find me. All right. I tell people all this. So we've all made mistakes, right? We've all had problems in life. We've all had deals not go the way that we wanted them to when we got into them, right? So I'm not saying that I'm perfect, and I'm not saying that my reputation is unblemished, right? But what I am saying is that my entire business is built off of my face, my name, and my brand, Forrest Buys Houses. And so if you Google, I tell people all the time, I say, if you Google my name, you will get more information than you want on me. And it's all going to be good, because that's all I have. In Richmond is a reputation market. Okay. And you can't have a bad reputation and get very far around here. There's a few people that make it work, but for the most part, your reputation is your business, right? Especially the way that I operate, where I'm trying to build trust and rapport with people. So if you want to find me, you just Google Forrest McGhee, but I'm ForrestBuysHouses.com, ForrestBuysLands.com, SoldWithForrest.com. You name it. I've got a website with my name on it. And then we have the Build Real Estate community on Facebook. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. That's how you find me. I'm everywhere. I'm graffiti on the internet.
Awesome. Good. That's good. That's a good place to be. And Forrest with 2 R's.
2 R's.
Forrest with 2 R's. Awesome. Any final thoughts?
I appreciate this community that you're building. The more people see that this is a business, right? This isn't a get rich quick thing. This is a business in the industry that people choose to do because, for me, it's building communities. It's making a neighborhood better, whether people believe it or not. I'll never forget one time we were looking at a property down in Richmond. There's this guy on a 10-speed bike with no shirt on and some bathing suit thing coming down. He goes, "Oh, look, gentrifiers, great. That's what we need in the neighborhood." And he was just riding his bike on down. And I was like, "You're a jerk, right?" But I mean, this is what we're doing, man. We're making communities better, and it takes people like us to do it. And if you can do it, everybody has a moral compass to some degree, and everybody has a different ethical standard that they raise themselves to. But if you can, at the end of the day, say, I did well, I served that customer well, I created a nice home to somebody, right? That, makes you sleep at night well, then you've done a good job. If you're covering up mold, if you're, always on the best end of the deal, right? If you're a flipper or a wholesaler that believes that the only person that should be making money is you, if you're treating your contractors like crap and you're giving them not their full fair value because you believe that you're the only one that's supposed to make money, if you're nickel and diming your guys, then I got a problem with that. Right. In this business, you have to have an abundance mindset to know that the next deal's today or tomorrow or a week from now, right? So how can you square yourself with an abundance mindset of, I know there's a deal coming for me. I know there's bread going to be put on my table, but I'm going to take bread off my contractor's table. I'm going to take them and I'm going to put my thumb on them and keep them down. But at the same time, I know my next deal is coming and I'm going to get mine. And, if you're really about improving people's lives, it's your team too.
Right. That's well said. I mean, I think we are lucky to a large extent that Richmond, a lot of investors in Richmond do have an abundance mindset, but there's absolutely, we've seen examples of the opposite, right? So I appreciate that. I appreciate your insight. It's great to learn more about your journey and hear your story, learn more about you, your companies, and what you've built and what you've been through to get to where you are now. I appreciate you coming and sharing your story on the podcast.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you, Stephen.